Good morning. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate being here. You want to just pop that open? Yeah. I want to thank ARUTZ SHEVA and Yoni and Hazak and all the organizers. Listening to Yaakov gave this, wonderful message of hope. Hope is good, but we have to, we have to work and we have to fight. Rabbi Elon talked about the problem of Jews who are not playing for the Jewish team. I don't have to rehash that with you. It's like a baseball game. We have 9 men on the field and 3 or 4 playing for the other team. That's your problem, not for me to tell you how to figure it out, but it's got to get figured out because this is what gives refuge and cover, as you well know, to the Israel haters. How about this guy? He's as Jewish as can be. He's yelling and screaming about the war. He's talking about Israeli genocide in Gaza. He hates Bibi, and so it gives the worst people the best kind of cover. I mean, I wish you well. I think a good thing for me to talk about is the Catholic problem. Being a religious Catholic, I've been very disappointed with former Pope Francis, who's a Marxist and a problem, and now we have Pope Leo. And he comes out and says, 2-state solution, talk, make this happen, or whatever. And I wrote a piece about that, which was published in ARUTZ SHEVA, and I really appreciate that. And then he says that anyone who's involved in the war effort, U.S. and Israel versus Iran, should go to confession. That's calling them sinners. So I wrote a piece saying that he's the one that should go to confession. Now that's a pretty strong move for a religious Catholic to go, but I mean, that's what needed to be said, and that's what had to be said. That's what has to be said. And I've said the same thing about our mayor, who campaigned, and I called him what did I call him, Adam? I called him an anti-Semitic hate zombie, and that's what he ran on. And 33%, a third of the Jews voted for that. And so we've got a New York City. Hey, excuse me, I'm talking here, and that is an unbelievable problem. But regarding the Catholic problem. Just to give you a little bit of scope of what's going on there. The good news, of course, is that you have the Pentecostal movement. I'm Catholic, Pentecostal movement. People think I know everything about it. I don't. You know what I mean? People think I know what Methodists do and Episcopalians do. Like, I have no idea, That's just like I know that, like you know what goes on, like in a Reform shul. Like, you don't. And so, you don't. I do, you don't. So you got the Pentecostal movement, and I think for every Jew, for every Jew in America that supports Israel, you've probably got like 50 Pentecostals who would like die for Israel. So you're fine with the Pentecostals. You got that wire. You got the connection between, Huckabee and the Pentecostals. Beautiful thing. But let me tell you what 1.4 billion Catholics around the world have heard, like, post-October 7th. I would go to church and have to hear, there's a section in the Mass where, there are, intentions that we want to pray for. And one of the intentions is that there should be peace and security in Israel. Great. And then the next thing is that we pray for the victims of the Israeli Gaza Holocaust. I have to hear this from the pulpit. And where does this come from? Everything comes from the top, like everything comes from the Pope. And so people were like warmed up with, St. Francis, and, the church got consumed by his, Marxist policies. And I don't think Pope Leo is fully cleaned house yet. And so this is what people hear. They hear it from the pulpit. 1.4 billion Catholics around the world, not that they all go to church, but so, I'm not afraid to push back, well, I'm my father's son. He told me a long time ago, it's just, state that, he told me, he wanted to be a priest once upon a time. Thank God he didn't go that way, He went to World War II, came back, didn't feel like he was worthy of the priesthood. He was a gunner. Bad stories. And so he married my mom and raised the 5 of us. And his whole thing is that every disorientation in life comes from separation from God. That's the source of everything. So it's like you stay close to God, and what you feel in your heart, you do what's right, and then the outcome is either God's victory or God's problem. But that's how this works, So my father taught me to live by a code, and whether it's the Pope or whatever, I'm going to say what I need to say. So I have this. I don't think I have time to read I wrote a brief statement about Mayor Mamdani and his whole Napka Day thing. It's short. You want to hear it? Yeah. Okay. Mayor Mamdani's Napka Day propaganda is nothing short of a disgraceful, one-sided rewrite of history that spits in the face of truth and every Jewish New Yorker. Glossing over the Arab rejection of the UN partition plan, the immediate invasion by 5 Arab armies hell-bent on wiping out the Jewish state at birth, and the expulsion of hundreds of thousands of Jews from Arab country isn't remembrance. It's rank historical revisionism and selective outrage designed to paint Israel as the eternal villain. The Jewish people did not expel Palestinians. They fought for survival after the Holocaust, built a state on legally purchased land and ancient rights, while Arab leaders chose war and tragedy for their own people. The mayor's 4-minute sob story ignores the Jewish refugees, the decades of pogroms, and the fact that Nabka narratives too often mask the real goal, erasing Israel as a Jewish homeland. This isn't an isolated slip. It's part of the mayor's disturbing pattern of enabling and amplifying anti-Jewish sentiment, from his DSA roots and Israel bashing rhetoric to platforming one-sided catastrophe tales at taxpayer expense, while Jewish New Yorkers endure skyrocketing hate crimes in our streets and schools. He consistently signals which side he despises. New York City has the largest Jewish population outside Israel, yet under leaders like him, it feels like their pain, security, and history are afterthoughts, or worse, fair game for distortion. Last part. Real leadership means calling out hatred against all communities, not cozying up to eliminationist slogans like right of return that would dismantle the world's only Jewish state. Mayor Mamdani needs to stop dividing New Yorkers with anti-Semitic fiction. The Jewish community and all fair-minded New Yorkers deserve much better. and unfortunately, how many Jewish organizations would put out a statement like this, this strong? Not a lot. Not a lot. And so, I don't want to lecture, but this is what is needed. I've officially worn out my welcome. My wife is Jewish, so I'll be lighting candles at 8:01 tonight. And her brother and sister made Aliyah like 50 years ago, and she has more relatives in Israel than she can count, including her niece, who works for who is part of the IDF, who does the kind of work that she can't tell anybody about it. And so, I'm Yisrael High. There we go.